The darkness of space held many secrets, but none more dangerous than the three ships that moved like shadows through the void. The Zephyrian vessels were works of art and death, their hulls painted the color of midnight and equipped with technology that could bend light itself. They had been following their target for 6 days now, always staying just out of sensor range. Admiral Kexthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Void Talon, watching the displays with satisfaction. His tall, scaled form cast a long shadow across the command deck as his yellow eyes studied the data streaming across the screens. The target was perfect. A single human ship, alone and far from any help. "Report," Kexthul commanded, his voice carrying the authority of countless victories. Commander Veltar stepped forward, his armor clicking against the metal floor. "The human vessel maintains its current course, Admiral. Our scouts confirm it carries only 38 crew members. The ship appears to be conducting mineral surveys in the asteroid fields." "Excellent." Kexthul's mouth curved in what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. "And their defenses?" "Minimal, sir. Basic energy weapons, standard hull plating, primitive sensors. No energy shields detected. The ship designation is UES Discovery, registered as a research vessel." Veltar paused, consulting his datapad. "Intelligence suggested is commanded by one Jake Murphy, a civilian scientist." The Admiral laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "A scientist? Even better. The humans send their scholars to do the work of warriors. This will be easier than taking cubs from their den." On the bridge of the Discovery, Captain Jake Murphy sat in his command chair, reading through the morning reports. His crew moved quietly around him, performing their duties with the calm efficiency of people who had worked together for years. The ship hummed with the steady rhythm of a healthy vessel, all systems running smoothly. "Morning, Captain," Lisa Barnes said as she entered the bridge. The chief engineer was a small woman with grease-stained coveralls and bright green eyes that missed nothing. "The mining equipment is ready for the next survey. We should reach the target asteroid in about 4 hours. Good work, Lisa." Murphy nodded and turned to his navigation officer. "Pete, any changes in our course?" Pete Collins looked up from his station, his weathered face serious. "All clear, Captain. No traffic detected in this sector. We're pretty much alone out here." "That's how we like it," Murphy said with a grin. He preferred the quiet of deep space to the busy shipping lanes closer to Earth. Out here, they could do their work without interference. Amy Foster, the communications specialist, turned from her console. "Sir, I'm picking up some strange readings on the long-range sensors. Might just be background radiation, but I thought you should know." Murphy frowned. "What kind of readings?" "Hard to say. The signals are very weak, almost like—" She paused, studying her screens more carefully. "Like someone is trying very hard not to be detected." The captain's expression grew serious. In his years of space travel, he had learned to trust his crew's instincts. Amy had the best ear for communications in the fleet. If she thought something was wrong, it probably was. "Keep monitoring it," he said quietly. "Let me know if anything changes." Aboard the Void Talon, Admiral Kexthul reviewed the attack plan one more time. 3 ships against 1 with superior weapons and technology. The humans would be caught completely by surprise. The plan was simple and brutal. Disable their engines, board the ship, and capture the crew for questioning. Any who resisted would be eliminated. "The humans will make excellent subjects for study," Kexthul mused to his aide. "Their technology may be primitive, but their biological makeup is interesting. The Science Council will be pleased." "Yes, Admiral. Shall I give the order to begin the attack?" Kexthul studied the tactical display once more. The human ship was moving slowly through an asteroid field, its attention focused on the rocks around it. "Perfect hunting conditions, not yet. Let them complete their survey. I want them relaxed and unprepared when we strike." The Admiral's eyes gleamed with anticipation. Fear makes prisoners more cooperative. Back on the Discovery, the crew continued their work unaware of the danger closing in around them. Dan Price, the security chief, made his rounds through the ship, checking systems and talking with the crew. He was a big man with kind eyes and a soldier's bearing, though few knew about his military background. In the engine room, Lisa Barnes worked on fine-tuning the quantum drive systems. The technology was new, still experimental, and she was one of only a handful of engineers who truly understood how it worked. To most observers, it looked like a standard propulsion unit, but Lisa knew better. The drive could do things that would surprise people, if they ever needed to use its hidden capabilities. Dr. Kate Sullivan worked in her laboratory, analyzing rock samples from their previous surveys. The ship's physicist was brilliant, her mind always working on problems that others couldn't even understand. Her current project involved something called gravitational field manipulation, though she kept the details to herself. "Captain," Amy's voice cut through the bridge's quiet atmosphere. "Those readings are getting stronger. I think we have company." Murphy was at her station in seconds. "Show me." The display lit up with sensor data and Murphy's blood ran cold. 3 contacts moving in perfect formation, closing on their position. The signatures were unlike anything in the human databases. "Red alert," Murphy said calmly. "All hands to battle stations." The ship's alarm began to sound and immediately the quiet research vessel transformed. Crew members who had been civilians moments before moved with military precision to their assigned positions. Murphy watched with pride as his people showed their true nature. "Lisa, I need full power to all systems," Murphy called through the intercom. "Already on it, Captain," came the reply. "All systems green and ready. Dan, prepare for possible boarding action. Security teams are armed and ready, sir." Murphy looked at the tactical display again. 3 enemy ships, unknown technology, clearly hostile intent. By all rights, the Discovery was doomed. Any reasonable captain would try to run or surrender. But Jake Murphy was not just any captain. And the Discovery was not just any ship. "Amy, open a channel to all hands," he said quietly. "Channel open, sir." "This is the captain. We have 3 hostile vessels approaching our position. They think they're hunting helpless prey." Murphy's voice carried throughout the ship, steady and confident. "They're about to learn what happens when you hunt humans." In the darkness of space, the 3 Zephyrian ships moved closer to their target, confident in their superior technology and firepower. Admiral Kexthul smiled as he watched the human ship on his screens, still moving slowly through the asteroid field. The trap was set. Soon, the humans would discover the price of venturing into Zephyrian space. The 3 Zephyrian ships appeared out of nowhere, their stealth systems deactivating in perfect synchronization. One moment the Discovery was alone among the asteroids, and the next, death surrounded them on all sides. The alien vessels were beautiful and terrifying, their dark hulls gleaming with weapon ports and sensor arrays. Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his hunter-killer ship, the Silent Fang, and felt the familiar thrill of the hunt reaching its climax. The human vessel sat before them like a wounded animal, completely outmatched and nowhere to run. "Target acquired," his weapons officer reported. "All systems locked onto the human ship." "Excellent." "Open communication channels," Veltar ordered. He wanted to savor this moment, to see the fear in human eyes when they realized their situation was hopeless. The main screen of the Discovery flickered to life, showing the scaled face of Commander Veltar. His yellow eyes burned with predatory satisfaction as he looked at Captain Murphy. "Human vessel, you are surrounded and outgunned," Veltar announced in accented but clear English. "Lower your shields, shut down your engines, and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your ship and the death of your crew." Murphy looked back at the alien commander with calm eyes. "This is Captain Jake Murphy of the UES Discovery. You are the ones who have been following us." "Indeed. We have been studying you, learning your weaknesses. You cannot escape and you cannot fight. Submit now, and some of your crew may live to see tomorrow." "I see." Murphy nodded thoughtfully. "And if we refuse?" Veltar's smile showed far too many teeth. "Then you will die in the cold darkness of space, forgotten and alone." Murphy was quiet for a long moment, then he smiled back. "Commander, you've made a mistake." "What mistake is that, human?" "You assume we're helpless." Before Veltar could respond, Murphy cut the communication. He turned to his crew, his face serious but unafraid. "Lisa, initiate Protocol 7. Amy, start broadcasting on emergency frequencies. Pete, begin evasive maneuvers. Dan, prepare to repel boarders." "Aye, Captain," came the chorus of responses. The Discovery suddenly came alive with activity. What had seemed like a helpless research vessel began to move with purpose and speed that caught the Zephyrians off guard. Veltar snarled as he watched the human ship begin a series of complex maneuvers through the asteroid field. "They dare to run from us. All ships launch boarding pods. We will take them by force." The Zephyrian vessels opened their launch bays and dozens of boarding pods shot toward the Discovery like angry hornets. Each pod carried 10 heavily armed Zephyrian warriors, confident in their superior technology and fighting skills. But as the first pods attached to the Discovery's hull and began cutting through, they found something unexpected. The hull was not the simple metal plating they had expected, but a complex composite that resisted their cutting tools. What should have taken minutes took nearly an hour. Dan Price waited in the corridor outside the first breach point, his security team positioned and ready. When the Zephyrians finally broke through, they expected to find frightened civilians cowering in fear. Instead, they found professional soldiers waiting for them. The first Zephyrian warrior through the breach fell to a precisely aimed shot from Dan's rifle. The second and third followed quickly. The aliens were skilled fighters, but they had never faced humans in combat before. They did not understand the tactical thinking or the refusal to give ground that marked human warfare. SEAL bulkheads 7 through 12, Dan called into his comm unit as his team fell back to prepared positions. Channel them into the trap zones. The Discovery had been designed with more than research in mind. Hidden throughout the ship were defensive positions, emergency blast doors, and corridors that could be turned into kill zones at a moment's notice. What looked like a simple research vessel was actually a carefully planned fortress. In engineering, Lisa Barnes worked frantically at her controls. The quantum drive was powering up, but not for escape. She was preparing to activate systems that the Zephyrians could never imagine. "Captain, quantum resonance at 40%, she reported. "Understood. How long until full power?" "Give me 10 more minutes." Dr. Kate Sullivan was in her laboratory, but she was not hiding. Her gravitational field generators were coming online, devices that could manipulate the very fabric of space around the ship. The Zephyrians thought they were dealing with primitive technology, but Kate's work was decades ahead of anything in their databases. Amy Foster sat at her communication station, her fingers dancing across the controls. To the Zephyrians, it looked like she was sending desperate distress calls. In reality, she was doing something much more important. The signals she broadcast looked like random static to casual observation, but hidden within them was compressed tactical data, quantum encrypted and transmitted on frequencies the aliens could not detect. Faraway receivers were already picking up her messages and relaying them to places the Zephyrians did not know existed. Commander Veltar was becoming frustrated. The boarding action should have been completed by now, but his warriors were meeting fierce resistance. The humans fought with a skill and determination that surprised him. "Status report," he demanded. "Sir, we have breached the hull in 6 locations, but the humans have sealed off the interior sections. Our warriors are taking heavy casualties." "Impossible." "They are scientists and miners, not soldiers." "Sir, these humans fight like veterans. They know their ship intimately and are using it against us. We estimate it will take at least another hour to secure the vessel." Veltar's anger grew. An hour was too long. Admiral Kexthul would not be pleased with such delays. "Increase firepower. Use the plasma cannons to breach their hull directly." "Sir, that might damage whatever technology they are hiding. Then we will take what remains and execute the survivors for their resistance." The Zephyrian ships began firing, their weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. But as their energy beams struck the Discovery's hull, something unexpected happened. The ship began to shimmer and fade as if it were becoming translucent. The Zephyrian weapons passed through empty space where the Discovery had been just moments before. "What is happening?" Veltar demanded. His science officer stared at his instruments in confusion. "Sir, the human ship is phasing. It appears to be moving in and out of normal space-time." In the Discovery's engineering section, Lisa Barnes smiled as her quantum drive reached full power. The Zephyrians had expected a normal ship with normal technology. They had not expected humanity's greatest breakthrough in physics. "Captain, we're fully operational," she announced. "The quantum resonance field is stable." Murphy nodded, watching as the alien weapons fire passed harmlessly through his ship. "Excellent work, Lisa. Dr. Sullivan, are you ready?" In her laboratory, Kate Sullivan activated her gravitational field generators. Around the Discovery, space itself began to bend and twist in ways that defied the Zephyrians. Understanding of physics, the boarding pods that had attached to the hull suddenly found themselves caught in gravitational fields that crushed them like tin cans. The warriors inside had no time to scream before the incredible forces tore their vessels apart. Commander Veltar watched in horror as his boarding force was destroyed in seconds. The human ship, which had seemed so helpless just minutes before, was demonstrating technology that surpassed anything in the Zephyrian arsenal. "Sir, we cannot lock onto the target," his weapons officer reported, panic creeping into his voice. "The ship keeps phasing in and out of reality." "And sir," added the science officer, "the gravitational readings around the human vessel are impossible. They are somehow manipulating local space-time." Veltar stared at the display, watching as the Discovery moved through space like a ghost, untouchable and deadly. This was not the easy victory he had expected. The humans had revealed capabilities that changed everything. On the Discovery's bridge, Captain Murphy looked at his crew with pride. They had turned what should have been their destruction into their first victory, but he knew this was only the beginning. The real battle was about to start. The battle had taken a turn that none of the Zephyrians could have imagined. Their three powerful warships, pride of the Imperial fleet, found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to exist only when it wanted to. The Discovery phased in and out of normal space like a spirit, impossible to target, impossible to predict. Commander Veltar gripped the rail of his command deck as another volley of plasma fire passed harmlessly through where the human ship had been just seconds before. His warriors, trained from birth for combat, stood at their stations with expressions of confusion and growing fear. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel's last known position," he ordered, trying to keep the desperation out of his voice. But the Discovery was no longer where it had been. Captain Murphy stood calmly on his bridge, watching the tactical display as his ship moved through dimensions the Zephyrians could not even detect. "Lisa, how are we doing on power consumption?" he asked. "The quantum drive is running at 60% efficiency, Captain. We can maintain this for another 2 hours easily." Lisa Barnes worked at her engineering console with steady hands, monitoring systems that represented humanity's greatest technological achievement. "Dr. Sullivan, what's our status on gravitational manipulation?" Kate Sullivan looked up from her laboratory station, her eyes bright with excitement. "The field generators are exceeding all expectations, Captain. I can create gravity wells up to 50,000 kilometers from our position." "The Zephyrian ships are sitting targets," Murphy nodded. "Dan, what's the situation with the boarding parties?" "All eliminated, sir," Dan Price reported with satisfaction. "The gravitational fields crushed their pods before they could retreat. No survivors." Amy Foster turned from her communication station, a small smile on her lips. "Captain, the quantum entanglement array is fully operational. Our messages are getting through." "Excellent. How long until our friends arrive?" "Based on current hyperspace conditions, I estimate 47 minutes. Commander Veltar was receiving reports from his other ships, and none of them were good. The humans had destroyed 2 full boarding squadrons without taking a single casualty. Their impossible technology made them untouchable, while they struck back with weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. "Sir, the Claw Dancer reports severe damage to their port engine array," his communications officer announced. "They were caught in some kind of gravitational anomaly. And the Bloodseeker? Heavy damage to their weapon systems. Their targeting computers cannot lock onto the human vessel." Veltar snarled in frustration. How had a simple capture mission turned into this disaster? The humans were supposed to be primitive, weak, easily conquered. Instead, they were demonstrating technology that made the Zephyrian fleet look like children playing with toys. Admiral Kexthol's voice crackled over the communication system. "Commander Veltar, report your status immediately. Admiral, the humans are... The situation is more complex than anticipated." "Complex? You have 3 warships against 1 research vessel." "Sir, the human ship is not what it appears to be. They possess technology we have never encountered. They can phase in and out of normal space, manipulate gravitational fields, and their defensive capabilities are extraordinary." There was a long silence before Kexthol responded, his voice cold with rage. "Are you telling me that you cannot capture 1 human ship?" "Sir, I am telling you that this is not a research vessel. It is some kind of advanced military prototype. We need reinforcements." "Reinforcements? For 1 ship?" The Admiral's laughter was harsh. "Commander, if you cannot complete this simple mission, perhaps I need a new field commander." The threat was clear, and Veltar's scaled skin grew pale. Failure was not tolerated in the Zephyrian military. "Admiral, I will complete the mission. Give me 1 more hour. You have 30 minutes. After that, I will come down there myself and show you how to deal with primitive humans." The connection ended, leaving Veltar alone with his growing desperation. He had to find a way to defeat the humans, or his own death would follow quickly. Aboard the Discovery, the crew worked with calm efficiency. They had revealed their true nature now, and there was no going back. The ship that had pretended to be a simple research vessel was actually humanity's most advanced military prototype, testing technologies that would revolutionize warfare. "Captain," Pete Collins called from navigation, "I'm detecting movement from the Zephyrian flagship. The big one is heading our way." Murphy studied the tactical display. The massive Zephyrian dreadnought was indeed moving toward their position, its enormous bulk bristling with weapons. "Time to arrival?" 28 minutes at current speed. That's cutting it close. Murphy turned to his crew. "All right, people. Time to show our guests what human ingenuity can really do." Dr. Sullivan activated additional gravitational field generators that had been hidden throughout the ship. Around the Discovery, space began to warp and twist in complex patterns. What looked like empty void became a maze of gravitational anomalies that would tear apart any ship foolish enough to enter. Lisa Barnes pushed the quantum drive to new levels, causing the Discovery to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Zephyrians were no longer fighting one ship, but dozens of quantum echoes that appeared and disappeared unpredictably. Amy Foster's fingers flew over her console as she coordinated with assets that the Zephyrians did not know existed. Her quantum entanglement communications had been busy, and help was on the way. Dan Price led his security teams in preparing additional surprises. The Discovery carried mining equipment that had been designed for breaking apart asteroids, but it worked just as well on enemy spacecraft. Hidden throughout the ship were devices that could project focused energy beams capable of cutting through the strongest armor. "Commander," Feltar watched in growing horror as his ships were systematically dismantled by the impossible human vessel. The Discovery appeared in 3 different locations at once, each image solid and real to his sensors. His weapons fire was scattered and ineffective, while the humans struck back with devastating precision. The Claw Dancer, caught in one of Dr. Sullivan's gravity wells, was slowly being crushed by forces equivalent to those found near a black hole. Its hull groaned and buckled as the incredible gravitational pressure tore the ship apart from the inside. The Bloodseeker fared no better. Lisa Barnes had created a quantum resonance field around the Zephyrian vessel, causing its own engines to work against it. The ship's power systems overloaded and exploded, leaving it drifting helplessly in space. "Sir," Feltar's science officer called out in panic, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching from hyperspace. Multiple contacts closing fast." Veltar turned to his sensors and his blood ran cold. Emerging from hyperspace were not the reinforcements he had hoped for, but human warships. Dozens of them, ranging from sleek destroyers to massive battle cruisers. Amy Foster smiled as she watched the fleet arrive exactly on schedule. "Captain, the cavalry has arrived." Murphy nodded with satisfaction. "Signal the fleet. Tell them we've softened up the targets for them." The lead human battlecruiser, the UES Defiant, opened communication channels. "Discovery, this is Admiral Sarah Blake. Are you in need of assistance?" "Admiral, this is Captain Murphy. We have the situation well in hand, but we'd appreciate some backup for the cleanup." "Understood, Captain. Impressive work. We monitored your quantum transmissions and tactical data. The Science Council will be very interested in your field test results." Commander Veltar stared at the approaching human fleet in shock. Field test results. The impossible battle he had just fought had been a test? The humans had used his ships as training targets for their new technology. Admiral Kexathol's voice came over the communication system, but now it carried notes of fear instead of anger. "All ships, retreat immediately. We are outnumbered and outgunned." But retreat was no longer possible. Dr. Sullivan's gravitational fields held the Zephyrian ships in place like insects in amber. The quantum resonance drive had created spatial distortions that made hyperspace jumps impossible. The hunters had become the hunted, trapped by technology they could not understand or counter. Captain Murphy looked at the tactical display showing the trapped alien fleet and felt a moment of pity for his enemies. They had come hunting what they thought was helpless prey, never realizing they were attacking humanity's most advanced military prototype. The Zephyrians had learned an important lesson about humans, but it might be the last lesson they ever learned. Admiral Kexthul stood frozen on the bridge of the Void Talon as he watched disaster unfold before his eyes. The human fleet had spread out in perfect battle formation, their ships moving with a coordination that spoke of advanced tactical systems and experienced crews. What had begun as a simple hunting expedition had become a nightmare beyond his worst fears. "Sir, the humans are hailing us," his communications officer reported, his voice shaking. "Put them through," Kexthul commanded, trying to maintain some dignity in the face of certain defeat. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of a human battlecruiser. Admiral Sarah Blake stood before him, her gray hair pulled back severely and her blue eyes cold as winter steel. Behind her, human officers worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. "I am Admiral Sarah Blake of the Earth Defense Force," she said in perfect Zephyrian. "You are Admiral Kexthul, commander of the 42nd Hunter Fleet." Kexthul's eyes widened in surprise. Not only did the human speak his language flawlessly, but she knew who he was. We know a great deal about you, Admiral. Your fleet's movements, your ship specifications, your tactical preferences. We've been watching the Zephyrian Empire for some time now." Blake's expression remained neutral, but there was steel in her voice. "The question is, what are we going to do about your attack on one of our vessels?" "Attack?" Kexthul tried to sound indignant. "We were merely investigating reports of illegal activity in this sector. Admiral, we have complete sensor recordings of your approach, your threats to Captain Murphy's crew, and your boarding attempt. We also have tactical data from your Hunter fleet's previous raids on civilian shipping." Blake paused. "Did you really think we weren't paying attention?" On the Discovery, Captain Murphy watched the confrontation with grim satisfaction. His ship had been more than just a test platform for new technology. It had been bait, designed to lure the Zephyrian raiders into a trap where they could be dealt with permanently. "Lisa, how are our power systems holding up?" he asked. "All green, Captain. The quantum drive is running smoothly, and Dr. Sullivan's gravity generators are maintaining perfect containment fields around the enemy ships." Murphy nodded. The Zephyrians were completely helpless, held in place by gravitational forces they could neither understand nor escape. Their advanced stealth technology and superior firepower meant nothing when they couldn't move or target their weapons effectively. Dr. Kate Sullivan monitored her gravitational field generators with fascination. The technology was performing even better than her calculations had predicted. Each Zephyrian ship was trapped in its own pocket of twisted space-time, completely isolated from its companions. "Captain," she reported, "I can maintain these fields indefinitely. The quantum resonance from our drive actually makes the gravitational manipulation more efficient." Amy Foster looked up from her communications station with a smile. "Sir, I'm receiving confirmation signals from 17 different monitoring stations. Earth Command has been tracking this entire engagement through our quantum entanglement network." "Excellent. How long until the recording teams arrive?" 3 hours, sir. They want to document everything for the military academies." Dan Price coordinated with the arriving human fleet as marine transports prepared to board the trapped Zephyrian vessels. "Captain, Admiral Blake requests permission to interrogate the prisoners personally." Murphy considered this. "Tell the Admiral she's welcome aboard whenever she's ready." Admiral Blake materialized on the Discovery's bridge in a column of blue light, her personal transport beam delivering her directly from her flagship. She looked around the bridge with interest, noting the mixture of standard research equipment and hidden military systems. "Captain Murphy," she said with a slight smile. "Impressive work. The field test exceeded all our expectations." "Thank you, Admiral. Though I have to admit, the Zephyrians made it easier than we anticipated. Their arrogance blinded them to what they were really facing." Blake nodded. "That arrogance has been their weakness for centuries. They've grown used to picking on defenseless traders in isolated colonies. They never expected to encounter organized resistance." The Admiral walked to the main tactical display, studying the trapped enemy fleet. "Tell me about the new technologies. How did the quantum phase drive perform?" Lisa Barnes stepped forward. "Beyond all specifications, Admiral. We were able to maintain quantum coherence for over 2 hours while simultaneously existing in multiple dimensional phases. The Zephyrians couldn't target us because we were never completely in normal space." "And the gravitational manipulation?" Dr. Sullivan joined the conversation, her eyes bright with excitement. "The field generators worked perfectly, Admiral. We can create gravity wells with pinpoint precision anywhere within 50,000 kilometers. The applications for both defense and exploration are enormous." Blake smiled. The Science Council will be pleased. And the Quantum Entanglement Communications? Amy Foster nodded enthusiastically. Instantaneous contact with Earth Command throughout the entire engagement. We transmitted real-time tactical data, sensor readings, and strategic assessments. The entire battle is documented in perfect detail. Admiral Kexthul watched helplessly as human boarding parties moved through his fleet with professional efficiency. His warriors, the finest soldiers in the Zephyrian Empire, were disarmed and captured without firing a shot. The humans used some kind of stunning weapons that left his people unconscious but unharmed. Commander Veltar was brought aboard the Void Talon in restraints, his scaled face showing the shame of defeat. Admiral, the humans have taken all 3 ships. Our crews are captured, our weapons are disabled, and our computer systems have been accessed. Kexthul closed his eyes. Not only had they been defeated, but the humans now had access to Zephyrian military technology and tactical information. The Empire would never forgive this disaster. Sir, his science officer whispered, the humans are scanning our ships with some kind of advanced sensor array. They're downloading our entire database. Let them, Kexthul said quietly. It no longer matters, but it did matter, and the Admiral knew it. The humans were learning everything about Zephyrian technology, military organization, and strategic plans. This single battle would shift the balance of power in the entire sector. Captain Murphy stood in the Discovery's conference room with Admiral Blake and the senior staff, reviewing the intelligence gathered from the captured ships. The data was extensive and revealing. The Zephyrian Empire has been planning a major expansion into human space, Blake said, scrolling through the captured files. They've identified over 40 targets for raids and conquest. Not anymore, Murphy replied. When word of this defeat spreads, other races will think twice about challenging humanity. Dr. Sullivan looked up from her analysis. Admiral, their technology is actually quite primitive compared to what we've developed. They rely heavily on brute force rather than innovation. Lisa Barnes nodded. Their ships are powerful, but they're built using principles that are decades behind our current research. The quantum physics alone puts us centuries ahead of their capabilities. Blake smiled grimly, which is exactly what we hope to prove. The Discovery's mission was to test our new technologies against a real threat while demonstrating to potential enemies that humanity is not the easy target they believe us to be. Amy Foster received an incoming transmission and turned to the group. Admiral, I'm getting reports from across the sector. News of the battle is spreading rapidly. Several alien governments are requesting immediate diplomatic contact with Earth. Fear has a way of encouraging diplomacy, Blake observed. Admiral Kexthul thought he was hunting helpless prey. Instead, he's given us the perfect demonstration of human technological superiority. Pete Collins pulled up a star chart showing Zephyrian space. What happens to their empire now, Admiral? Blake studied the map thoughtfully. That depends on how smart their leaders are. They can choose to respect human space and perhaps establish peaceful relations, or they can try to avenge this defeat. She paused. If they choose revenge, they'll discover that the Discovery was just the beginning of what humanity can do. Captain Murphy looked out at the trapped Zephyrian fleet and felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. The enemy had been defeated, but at the cost of showing the galaxy that humanity was no longer the peaceful, exploration-focused species they had appeared to be. The hunt was over, and the hunters had learned that sometimes the prey has claws. 3 months had passed since the battle that changed everything. Admiral Kexthul sat in his cell aboard the human prison ship Redemption, staring out through the energy barrier at the stars beyond. His once proud uniform had been replaced with simple gray clothing, and his scaled skin had grown pale from lack of sunlight. The door to his cell shimmered and disappeared, revealing Captain Jake Murphy. The human looked exactly as he had during their first confrontation, calm and confident, but now Kexthul understood the intelligence that lay behind those quiet eyes. Admiral, Murphy said, taking a seat across from his former enemy, I thought you might like to know what's been happening in your absence. Kexthul looked up with weary eyes. Has the Empire come to rescue us? Murphy shook his head. I'm afraid not. In fact, the Zephyrian High Council has declared you and your fleet as traitors, who acted without authorization. They're claiming your attack on the Discovery was a rogue operation. The former admiral's shoulders sagged. He had expected this betrayal, but it still hurt to hear it confirmed. Of course they did. They cannot admit that their greatest hunter fleet was defeated by a single human research vessel. Except it wasn't really a research vessel, was it? Murphy smiled slightly. You discovered that the hard way. Kexthul nodded slowly. Your ship was a trap from the beginning. How long had you been planning this? 2 years, Murphy admitted. We knew the Zephyrian Empire was targeting human settlements. We needed a way to demonstrate that attacking humanity would be costly and dangerous. Your fleet provided the perfect opportunity. The Admiral looked up sharply. You used us as test subjects. You used yourselves as test subjects when you decided to hunt what you thought were helpless civilians, Murphy replied without emotion. We simply made sure the test would be educational for everyone involved. On the bridge of the Discovery, now openly displaying its military designation as UES Discovery X-1, the crew prepared for their next mission. The ship had been upgraded with even more advanced systems, and several of the original research stations had been replaced with military hardware. Admiral Sarah Blake stood beside Lisa. Barnes, as the chief engineer, explained the latest modifications to the quantum drive system. We can now maintain phase variance for up to 6 hours, Lisa reported. The new power couplings have increased efficiency by 40%, and Dr. Sullivan's gravitational field generators can affect targets up to 100,000 kilometers away. Impressive, Blake said. And the quantum entanglement network? Amy Foster looked up from her expanded communications station. We now have instantaneous contact with over 200 monitoring stations throughout human space. Any hostile movement can be detected and responded to within minutes. Dr. Sullivan joined them from her laboratory, which had grown to encompass 2 entire decks of the ship. Admiral, I've completed the analysis of Zephyrian technology. Their gravitational understanding is centuries behind ours. What we accomplished in that battle would be impossible for them to replicate. Blake nodded with satisfaction. And other alien races? Based on the intelligence we've gathered from diplomatic contacts, humanity's technological advancement has surprised everyone. Several species have requested technology exchanges, and 3 different governments have offered defensive alliances. Dan Price approached the group, his security badge now showing his promotion to commander. Admiral, the prisoner transport is ready for departure. Admiral Kexthul and his officers will be delivered to the neutral zone as requested. Good. What about Commander Veltar? He's asked to speak with Captain Murphy before they leave. In the conference room, Commander Veltar sat across from Murphy, his proud bearing reduced to quiet defeat. The Zephyrian's yellow eyes held a mixture of anger and grudging respect. Captain, I have a question that has troubled me since our capture, Veltar said. Ask away. Your crew fought like seasoned warriors, not research scientists. Who are you, really? Murphy leaned back in his chair. We're exactly who we said we were. Lisa is a brilliant engineer who happened to work on military projects before joining the Discovery. Dr. Sullivan is a physicist whose research has applications for both exploration and defense. Amy is a communications specialist with experience in intelligence gathering. Dan is a security chief who used to be a Marine. And you? I'm a scientist who spent 10 years in the Earth Defense Force before taking command of this mission. Murphy paused. The difference between humans and Zephyrians, Commander, is that we don't separate our military and civilian populations. Every human is trained to defend themselves and their community. Veltar absorbed this information. Your entire species consists of potential soldiers. Our entire species consists of people who refuse to be victims, Murphy corrected. When you attack human civilians, you're not attacking helpless prey. You're attacking people who will fight back with everything they have. The prisoner transport ship departed the next day, carrying the defeated Zephyrian fleet officers to the neutral zone, where they would be released. Admiral Kexthul spent the journey staring out at the stars, thinking about the lessons he had learned too late. His aide, one of the few surviving junior officers, approached him carefully. Admiral, what will you tell the High Council when we return? Kexthul was quiet for a long moment. I will tell them the truth. Humanity is not the weak species we believe them to be. They are innovative, determined, and more advanced than we imagined. Attacking them was a mistake that cost us everything. Will they listen? Some will. Others will demand revenge and send more fleets against human space. Kexthul turned from the viewport, his expression grave. Those fleets will suffer the same fate we did, or worse. Back in the Zephyrian Empire, the news of the 42nd Hunter Fleet's defeat sent shockwaves through the military command. Some officials called for immediate retaliation, while others urged caution. The debate raged for weeks before a decision was reached. The Empire would maintain its current borders and avoid human space until further intelligence could be gathered. It was a humiliating retreat, but the alternative was potentially catastrophic. Throughout the galaxy, other species took notice of humanity's demonstration of power. The humans, once seen as newcomers with primitive technology, were suddenly viewed as a force to be respected and feared. Trade agreements were proposed, diplomatic missions were established, and several conflicts near human space were quietly resolved to avoid drawing attention from Earth's military. Captain Murphy stood on the bridge of the Discovery, now designated as the flagship of humanity's deep space defense force. His crew had been expanded to include specialists from every branch of human science and military service. The ship that had once pretended to be a simple research vessel had become the symbol of humanity's emergence as a galactic power. "Captain," Amy reported from her station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." On screen, Admiral Blake appeared on the main display, her face showing satisfaction and pride. "Captain Murphy, congratulations on the success of Operation Revelation. The Discovery's mission has exceeded all expectations." "Thank you, Admiral. What are our next orders?" "You'll be pleased to know that the Discovery X-1 will lead a new class of vessels designed specifically for deep space patrol and first contact situations. Your crew will train the next generation of captains and officers who will command these ships." Murphy looked around at his crew, seeing the pride and determination in their faces. They had started as researchers and had become the guardians of humanity's expansion into the galaxy. "There's one more thing, Captain," Blake continued. "Intelligence reports suggest that several hostile species are forming an alliance to challenge human expansion. They call themselves the Coalition of Claws." Lisa Barnes looked up from her engineering station. "Let them come, Admiral. They'll learn the same lesson the Zephyrians did." Dr. Sullivan smiled from her science station. "We've made significant improvements to our technology since the last engagement. Any species that challenges us now will face capabilities they can't even imagine." Dan Price checked his security displays. "My teams are ready for whatever comes our way, Admiral." Amy Foster nodded from communications. "And our intelligence network now spans half the galaxy. We'll see them coming long before they reach human space." Murphy felt a surge of pride in his crew and his species. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy, not with words or diplomacy, but with a demonstration of technological superiority and tactical brilliance that no one could ignore. Admiral Kex Thule and Commander Feltar had tracked a human vessel thinking they were hunting helpless prey. Instead, they had awakened something that would reshape the balance of power throughout the galaxy. The hunt was over, but humanity's real journey among the stars had just begun. And any species foolish enough to threaten them would discover that humans were not prey at all, but the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever seen. The Discovery moved away from the neutral zone, its quantum drive humming with power, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in the vast darkness of space. Behind them, the defeated Zephyrian officers carried a message that would spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity had